Off with sports.
Good to go.
Check 1, 2. I got nothing.
Could be better there. Sorry.
This doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and
Just
run
a
it all back. I'm
motherfucking
the
jump.
new era, about to
Just
snap
go.
back. You ain't fitting.
This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy ready to go this Monday morning. Welcome to the program. Do us all a favor and hit that subscribe button, that like button, that share. Drop a comment on anything we're talking about that you want to share with us. And maybe, in the chat. You can get in the chat. If your chat is any good, Leo will bring it up. If it's not, you're just going to be in chat purgatory, basically. And good morning to you, Leo.
Morning, man.
Wow.
How was the weekend?
It was a very, very busy weekend. Starting with Friday, and we'll start with something, because there's so much going on, we'll start with something that isn't quite so serious. So sports. And there was a lot of it. So Friday night, Mercury game. The series had been tied 1-1. It's a best-of-5 series. It is the semifinals. The other series was tied as well, 1-1. And the Phoenix Mercury pulled out a very good win, very solid. They looked really good. It was a very controversial game, though. Still being talked about today because the best player, one of the top players in the WNBA, who was also a candidate for the MVP award this season, Nafisha Collier, got hurt at the end of the game. And it was accidental. It was players kind of colliding, going for a ball, and it was what it was. But the officiating, as we've talked about all season, is horrible. It's just horrible. And it's horrible league-wide. It really isn't often horrible in favor of one team. It's just not good. That they just don't have a typical standard, and it just leads. As a player, you're going to do whatever you can get away with, right? That's what you're going to do. And that's what happens, and things escalate, and that is one thing. I don't mind physicality, but there's, some of that in basketball, that's just not the game. And I think if they want to present a better product, if they want to grow the WNBA, hopefully this offseason they'll take a look at that. So then Cheryl Reeves, the coach, totally loses it in the final, basically, minute of the game, literally going after the refs and having to be restrained. And this is all right in front of us. We're really close to the action. So we saw everything. And she gets teed up, and then she gets thrown out of the game. And I was just glad it wasn't me. But I've just been rooting my team on. That's what I've been doing. So the Phoenix Mercury get that win. It's then 2-1 going into Sunday. Now in the other semifinal, Indiana also won, and then the Aces won on Sunday. So they're tied 2-2, and they will be playing again on Tuesday to see who's good. And that's a surprise. The Aces were the number 2 seed, and yet with all the injuries with the Indiana Fever, they're finding a way to win. Defense and running. And obviously, it's worked out enough for them that they've gotten to where they've gotten. Now, for the Phoenix Mercury, you're playing the number 1 team, the number 1 seed. I knew this was going to be brutal. It was going to be tough. But now that they had a chance to get to just win at home and be done and move on to the finals, well, I bet on them. So that's how I felt about it. And if you actually go through all these experts going back to the beginning of the year, and I'm a newbie to the WNBA this year. This is my first year all in on the WNBA. That all these experts, really, they thought they would kind of be surprised if the Phoenix Mercury even made the playoffs. But I figured out pretty darn quickly that this Phoenix Mercury team, who was missing some players at the beginning of the season and weren't really full strength till about midseason, had a pretty special group, had a very deep bench, and could really go places. And out of these 4, it's kind of crazy. The one team I didn't think could make the finals or win it all was Indiana, and yet they just might still make the finals. But I've been pretty much, not because I'm a homer, but I think I can evaluate sports pretty well. I do a pretty good job of that. And that's just what I saw. I just saw a lot of talent, very deep bench. There was a point, I'm going to give Nate Tibbett some credit. There was a point where I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And there were some things going on, like Satu Sabali not knowing what her role was. And that was about 3/4 way through the season. And I'll tell you what, here during the playoffs, she did have one off game, but she has stepped up to the star role that she really is. She is a star. And we have 3 of them on the team, but she's really, really stepped up and not hiding anymore. And that's just been fantastic. And getting physical herself, that we needed. She's got good size, and she can hold up against some of the other big ladies in the league. But very good. And he's found a way to make it work. So Nate definitely deserves credit for that. And the management. The management did get credit. So big win yesterday. They were down by about 15 or so in the third quarter, got it down to single digits, and then just put the pedal to the metal. And the crowd was phenomenal, over 16,000. They said that's a sellout, but I think full capacity is like 17. We were close to that. And for a closeout game, you would want that, and they had it. The fans going crazy. And it's kind of cool for us, being that this is our first year as season ticket holders for Dawn and I, that in the very first season, right, the team we're rooting for gets a chance to bring home the league championship. So hats off to them. Very good. Definitely, as I said, I didn't like that the coach that the league did this. The coach not only got fined, but the coach got suspended for the game. The coach wasn't able to be in the game, Cheryl Reeves. I don't like that. They were already going to be without their star player. I know the league feels like, and it was for remarks she made in the press conference. I get it. But the league has to acknowledge that they have a problem, because they do, and it's a big one. And even in yesterday's game, it was very competitive. It was very exciting. But there were a couple guys sitting next to us that had, I don't know how many games they'd been to, but it didn't seem like many, but seemed like, hey, let's go to a game, have some fun. And just talking to them and talking about the overall game, just missed layups, uncontested missed layups, and air balls. Now, a couple of the players were really hitting the inside of the rim and banging on the inside of the rim and it not going in. I'm not talking about those. Those are good misses. I'm talking about complete misses. That just the overall play, maybe it's with time, and maybe, I don't know what they have to do as far as practice in their season, especially the way they have things set up with the draft, because you have the college in March, you have March Madness, and then those girls are eligible then after that, those women are eligible, the ones that are, to go pro and be drafted. And so they go right from college right to the pros, and, there's not very much time in between there. Where at least with, like, say, football, you got some months before that, and you have training camp, and I mean, not that they don't have preseason for the WNBA, obviously they do, but it just seems like it's just not enough, and not enough on the basics. And maybe that's going to be for the college ranks to step up and do that more as well. Again, I can't really compare. I didn't even watch college basketball, women's college basketball, until Caitlin Clark. That's what really got me interested. Maybe the occasional game here or there, but it wasn't very many. And it was always would have been like around March Madness. So, and now that Caitlin Clark's not in college, I couldn't tell you anything about college women's basketball to see, and that might be, an idea. Very proud, very excited. We'll see how it goes. So if Indiana wins, we have 2 home games to start out because it's going to be 2-2, 1-1-1. If Vegas wins, then it's going to be the 2 first games are going to be in Vegas. So we're excited to see that tomorrow night and see what will happen. Because that also might affect our Cardinals tickets again. But I'm not going to miss the finals. We've been there this whole time. We're not leaving. It's been a good, enjoyable year, and with the people that we've been there with, and even the ladies next to us, they were super happy, because they almost didn't get the playoff tickets, even though they were there. And they said they're going to renew next year because they knew we already had, and they like being next to us. We're good people. We're fun. And they are too. So, college football, some great games, college football this weekend. Good Lord. Thank you, Oregon. I won that bet. It was an overtime, but I can't stand Penn State. I can't stand that they're overranked all the fucking time, every single year. And Oregon took care of business. I didn't think it would be that close, but still another loss for Penn State's Franklin, who just can't beat ranked teams. Penn State can beat all the unranked teams all day long, but you give them a top 10 opponent. If you can't be a top 10, if you can't beat a top 10 opponent, how can you be a top 10 team? That just doesn't make sense to me. Indiana continued winning. Illinois got their win over USC. That cost me in one of my 3-pick parlays. I definitely had USC winning that game, but Illinois played much better after getting hammered by Indiana last week. I was hoping. Some other upsets, Ole Miss over LSU. That was a great game. Good storyline with the Ole Miss coach. His daughter, her boyfriend is a linebacker for LSU. That was kind of funny. Just overall, really, really good games. I was hoping my Buffaloes would pull it off and beat BYU, but they kind of collapsed at the end. But if you like football, man, there's been some crazy-ass football, and the NFL's full of it. And that started on Thursday night, and I mentioned that before with our Arizona Cardinals losing that game at the very end. And there was more of that this weekend. A lot of last-minute, field goals for wins again. And my Pittsburgh Steelers were able to beat Minnesota over there in Dublin, Ireland. Very sadly, though, a story came out that I saw late yesterday that Skylar Thompson, the backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he got jumped and robbed in Ireland, in Dublin. Out in the, I don't know the story really, if he was alone or with anybody else, but that's kind of shitty. That doesn't look good for the host city, I don't think. But Pittsburgh let him get close at the end, which kind of wasn't great. Pittsburgh had a chance that it would have been nice if they would have maybe kicked a field goal instead of going for a first down near the goal line, because then Minnesota would have had to score a touchdown to win, where all they needed was a field goal to tie it up. And thankfully, Pittsburgh was able to end that on defense. Defense played, for the most part, much better than they had been. I did have, it was my Mercury bet. I was just thinking about my bets, because I had the one bet where I had a 5-pick, or was it 7? I had a really long parlay. I think it was 7. And I got 6 of them right and 1 wrong. And the one I got wrong was the wide receiver got 79 yards instead of 80. I missed it by 1 yard. And yesterday I did the same thing with the Mercury. And I had Sammy Whitcomb getting 2 3-pointers, and she only got 1. Everything else hit. But that's not good enough. They all have to hit. But I did win enough that I am up for the week. I'm up like $220. So I gave some back. I took some, ended up overall. I'm okay with that. Just kind of fun. Are you in? Do you bet at all?
No.
No. No UFC, nothing like that? No.
I try to stay away from sports betting, be honest with you. I'll stick to like poker or blackjack if I do gamble, but for the most part I try not to gamble too much.
That's probably a good idea. All right, let's get to the serious stuff. I was just trying to avoid it for a minute because it's just been so overwhelming. The shooting in Michigan near Grand Blanc, just terrible, in a church again. And the target is Christians. We just had that, remember that school shooting, that Christian school shooting? What was that? Was that even a month ago?
No.
Month and a half?
Probably a little bit less than that.
It wasn't long ago. There's just so many right now. And then the first thing everybody wants to do, on both sides, wants to figure out whose side the guy was on. Just like we did for Charlie Kirk. And because this guy had a truck with a couple flags in it, they think he was MAGA. You know, I don't think MAGA typically hates Christians. So that doesn't exactly make sense right now. But we do know he was a former Marine who did get deployed. But he was doing like logistics and stuff, I think, when he was deployed. And there was another one, too. There've been several here in recent days. And I think he also had been deployed as well in Iraq or wherever. And we talk about there being problems with mental illness, right? And we all know there's an issue with veterans not getting the kind of care they need, the kind of care they deserve, and coming back home as they did with PTSD, depression. And what the VA seems to do for these men is put them on Xanax. I've seen it firsthand. Put them on Xanax. Highest amount you can even take. Which makes them just zombies and numb. I'm just not a fan of that. Personally, we've had great success. I've had great success working with vets and finding out that they're low T and getting their testosterone levels up. And they seem to be able to handle their situations much better. Now, it takes some time to wean off of max doses of Xanax. That we know. But I've seen guys just totally transform their life by getting their testosterone levels fixed, because testosterone is what makes a man. We should treat that better. The VA needs to treat that better, because that will solve quite a bit of this problem. When you feel like you're a man, you can act like a man and do man things that you can't do when you're depressed, that you can't do when you don't feel motivated to get out of bed. We need people motivated to want to improve themselves. That's why I love the gym, because it translates into so much other things for me. That if I take care of myself in the gym, then I'm going to take care of things in other places, in my personal life, in my business life. But it just starts there. It's a good starting point. And just taking care of yourself, trying to eat better. And I think we've seen a history going back some time that, addiction becomes an issue too for some of these guys. Trying to, again, numb the pain, deal with their shit by just covering it up with alcohol or other drugs. Why not change addictions? Why not throw some weights around? And this just, nobody's going to talk about this as a part of this scenario, but I think it is important. I think it is important that we need to see and get beyond that, another white male with a gun. We need to disproportionately, it's a disproportionate number, it feels like anyways, that have been in the service at some point. So something's got to be going on there. And I don't know why we don't want to look at the real root causes of things. Why is that a bad thing? It just makes me think of, the vaccines and the debate about vaccines and what's causing autism. And I'm not somebody who believes that the vaccines are causing autism, but it does make me wonder why we brought it up. Why would we be given a vaccine to newborns for hepatitis B, right? Why would we be doing that if the mother is not an addict or there's not that danger around them? It seems like, it seems like a good vaccine to maybe give at some early point, maybe not right away, if you think the child might be in danger. But if you think the child's going to be in danger over hepatitis B and that the mother might be using drugs, how is she keeping the baby? Isn't that where child services should actually come in and help and protect the child? But just from the point of, as we're talking about it, it's why don't we want to know? Why don't we want to know what's contributed to this incredible increase in autism? Just a few years ago, it was 1 in 36. Now it's 1 in 30. Those are crazy numbers. And the numbers are going in the wrong direction. So I think we want to figure out what's causing it, because autism is not a disease. But don't we have to understand the cause to develop strategies to make it less frequent than it is now? What's going on in the environment? What's going on in the food? What's going on with the mother? Is there something that they're unknowingly doing? I'm sure they would like to know. But getting to the root causes of things just seems like that would be important. And I think it's important to figure out what's going on with men who have served and are coming back and then committing these heinous crimes. And why are Christians specifically being targeted? Now, I'm trying to be more careful than others and wait for more information to come out. But I did hear it. It seemed to be fairly reliable that he had some issue with Mormons for whatever reason. And according to the church, he wasn't a member or had anything to do with that particular church. And it's not just about the gun, because he apparently, we don't call them assault rifles. We can call it a rifle. We can call it an AR-15, but we're not going to call it. The definition for assault rifle is just ridiculous. People can't even give it to you. We're talking semi-automatic, a semi-automatic rifle. The guy drove his truck into the church. Drove it into the church. And not only did he fire rounds indiscriminately at the parishioners in the church, he then, they think, used gasoline to dump around and start the fire. And other people died in that fire. And interestingly enough, I did read, and it seems, again, reliable, that they had just finished taking communion right before this happened. If that isn't a sign of God, I don't know what is. We're just at a point. I'm tired of hearing about the guns over and over again immediately after these tragedies. What solution does someone have that's anti-gun? What solution do they have that doesn't take guns away from law-abiding citizens? You know, it just occurred to me, just hit me as I was saying that as well. Let's look at the places that these things happen. Schools, churches, cities where they have or states where they have very strict gun laws, right? But strict gun laws or not, even in the least restrictive states or cities, isn't it true? Like, churches are pretty much gun-free zones. I think I've seen stickers at church doors. Schools, for sure, are gun-free zones, right? And I was just thinking, how many times does this happen here in Arizona? I've been here 3 years. You've been here on and off for a good part of your life, right, Leo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not a very common thing in Arizona compared to other states, I would assume. I really don't know, but you don't really hear things like that happening a lot in Arizona.
We're an open carry state. You pull shit like this in Arizona, Again, maybe not the case at a church, but I'm telling you, if you think that there aren't Christians going to church who are concealed carrying, you're crazy. I promise you there are. I promise. But it doesn't happen. It just, you do dumb shit in Arizona, you're getting fired upon back there. You might have 6 people pulling their guns at you. If it's there's enough people there. But that did just occur to me that, yeah, another church, another place that's a gun-free zone. And this guy, I think, he didn't kill himself like a lot of them do. He was killed by the officers that showed up. Yeah. Christians are really feeling it right now, especially after Charlie. And people saying just the dumbest shit in the world. People on X, of course. It's just, I don't know. The things that people say are, are we going to, have a memorial like we had for Charlie, for these people? Like we don't care about these people? We absolutely do. Some stories are just naturally bigger than others. This is getting attention for sure. And it should. And it should. But this just, I don't know, the extremism is just off the charts, it feels like right now. And I don't have an answer. I'm not going to pretend. The one thing I do know is it would be really great if everybody could, and this is kind of interesting. Greg Gutfield he might be watching the show, Leo. He might be one of our secret 5 viewers. Okay. Because one of the things I talked about, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, you might remember, that I talked about how we needed to go back to calling people stupid and idiots. Don't call them Hitler. Don't call people Hitler, but just call them stupid. Mm-hmm. Call them other names that aren't names. You don't kill somebody because they're stupid. If you want to stop Hitler, well, you're going to kill Hitler to stop Hitler. So just call people stupid. And Greg Gutfield this past week on a couple different of the programs, he has his Gutfield show, he has the 5 that he's on, talked about that very thing, about getting back to insults. And I just thought that was interesting because that was I just came up with the idea before he did. That's all I'm saying. Now, I might not have been the first one to say that either, but so maybe he's not a secret viewer, but he could be. Yeah. Petty insults, that's what he called it. Petty insults, calling somebody dumb. We did that with Joe Biden, honestly. But there weren't people on the right that wanted to see Joe Biden get killed or shot or even die of cancer, for God's sakes. We didn't wish that just because some of us are actually like Trump and don't want to forgive our enemies right away. Doesn't mean we want them dead. Nobody's saying you can't insult people or stand up for what you believe in. Do that. But there's certain words that honestly should be used sparingly. Because then when they are used, it'll make more of an impact. Because it's not something somebody would say normally. We've lost that. We've completely lost that. Because of the language that's now used. I don't know. I don't know how much these people that commit these crazy acts are influenced by that kind of stuff. But I have to think it contributes. It's not a good thing. And we'll get targeted again for saying to pray for these families. We pray for the families, but then we don't do anything. What do you want to do? I just hate when people, they act like that it's so easy to get a gun. Now, if you know how easy it is to get a gun? You know when getting a gun is easy? Is you can go through the concealed carry course, right? And then they're going to do the background check and everything on you, right? For you to be able to get the concealed carry. And my employee, Brendan, has done this. And once you have that, because you've had that background check and been through the course, I think you can go and get a gun the same day.
I don't even think you need a permit or anything. In the state of Arizona, you can just
but there's but that's good for like 32 states. There's like 32 states that you can take it and then be able to get a gun in any of those states.
Gotcha.
But you had to do some work to do it. You had to show some knowledge of gun laws, some proficiency in handling the gun and shooting it to get the concealed carry. Now, you can carry without all that. Like you said, we talked about the open carry. But just because you're allowed to open carry doesn't mean it was, easy for you to get a gun. My last background check, I had to wait 7 days. Normally, it's not that long. But, it's me. Yeah. I have a past. But it took 7 days. People just are not we do have background checks.
I was about to say, when I first bought my AR, I went in there and then within 30 minutes, I got the gun. Walked out the store within 30 minutes.
Yeah, but they still had to run, but they can do that. That is a thing where it can be done really quickly sometimes too. But that just means you have a clean, nothing's being pulled up that's questionable when you do that. But they did check. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with that. But with these people, there's a whole bunch of people out there that act like we don't do any of that. We don't do any background checks. And we do. And what would the point, if somebody like you, Leo, what would it help? How would it prevent anything when somebody has a clean background like you do, that they do that, but they still had a 3-day waiting period? You had to wait 3 days to come back to get it. How would that help anything? You see what I mean?
Honestly, I think it's more of like the type of like check they're doing on people. Like it seems, or at least from what I hear, it's a little bit too easy to get a gun here in Arizona. Pretty much anyone can. Like you said, like if they don't have anything on their record, pretty much.
Yeah, okay, but what is somebody going to do? Then why should you be denied? It should be easy. You're a law-abiding citizen. And again, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you don't have anything in your background or record, whether you get it today or 3 days later is going to make no difference whatsoever. if we don't have some type of, if there's nothing in your background that you've been, that they can find out, that see that, well, you were an inpatient at a mental institution for 2 weeks or whatever. That's not there. Like what? But again, that's law-abiding citizens. What do we do? What law is it that people want that would prevent this stuff from happening? Because the results, when things like this happen, the results are they come after the people that are law-abiding citizens for their guns. That laws that the left seem to want to introduce are things that would affect law-abiding citizens and not solve the problem. I mean, Charlie Kirk's killer, right? He took Grandpa's old rifle. This was like an old rifle. It sounded like this rifle is more than 50 years old. But it was a very simple rifle. People say, how could he take it apart? Because it had very few moving parts. That's how. Why do you think he had the fucking screwdriver up there? You don't think that, why would he have a screwdriver up there if it wasn't to help him assemble or disassemble the rifle? Nobody ever said. But that's what I'm assuming that it was for, to help with that and do it quickly. But what are you going to do? What law could be on the books that would prevent somebody from taking Grandpa's rifle and committing a heinous crime? Are we supposed to be mad at Grandpa? Grandpa, you know, what? I think he took it without Grandpa's permission. Telling me maybe he should have had it in a safe. Well, a lot of grandpas shoot with and go hunting and do shit with their grandkids. I just don't see there's no law I can think of that would prevent this. So just like schools, it comes down to security. And that's going to be hard for small churches. If you're a great big church, and the Church of the Latter-day Saints, they seem to have money, they could put up, but if somebody drives into the building, what good would a metal detector do? Right? I don't know that's going to, it's just crazy, man. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. If I was a pastor of a small church, 50, 100 members or whatever, something like that, I wouldn't be opposed to having a couple of the members carrying. I just wouldn't. You can't stop a bad guy with a gun without a good guy with a gun. And it's no different than the schools and having more people available than just, one officer for one great big building that has 1,000 kids in it. It's just not enough. We have to figure something. I am for figuring something out. I really am. And I'm very open. What I'm not open to is I'm not open to going after law-abiding citizens or a particular weapon that looks mean and is the same rifle as one that doesn't look mean. And if you haven't seen a picture, you can look it up pretty easily. That'll show just a simple semi-automatic rifle. And it'll show exactly that looks like a hunting rifle. And then you'll see like an AR-15. It looks like a military weapon. except that military weapons have a little switch on them that they can go from semi-automatic to automatic. That's not what these, and you can get a new one. You can't get a new automatic weapon. You can't do it. We already been over this. We go over this shit every time something happens. You can get a 50-year-old one if you want to jump through hoops for 6 months. And if you got about 40, 50 grand to buy it. That you can do. And those people that can't afford to do that, we don't hear about them going off and being involved in these types of gun violence events. And I didn't say mass shooting there just because I'm just including everything versus just, I think there's 5 different definitions of what's considered a mass shooting. Depends on the group that's tracking it and what they count, what they don't count, you know. I'm just saying, the people that truly do have the military weapon, they're not doing that. Now, that may not, that at least in the things we're talking about, I would say that's probably not true if you're talking about drug gangs, the cartels, or they got some military shit. But they're also not going and killing Christians in churches. That's just
cartels don't really give a fuck, to be honest.
Well,
they respect religion. They got to.
You're kind of spotty. Can you get your?
Sorry, I was just saying that cartels for the most part really don't care.
No, but I'm saying, but they're not targeting that. What do they care about? They care about their competition, and they care about cops. They'll shoot at them, but they're not. You know, maybe they don't care about religion one way or another, but they're not randomly taking their automatic weapons and going into churches or schools and killing people, because that
for the
was
purpose of just killing people.
Yeah, because that would turn people against the cartels, where in general,
I don't think they care, to be honest with you.
Well, I think they would.
They kind of run things.
They do.
With an iron fist, you know?
Yeah. I still think that they, but it's not one of their things. That's not an issue for them. I'm just throwing it out there for the automatic weapons. Like, yeah. But the things that we're talking about, we don't see that. I haven't seen really, inner city violence where they talk about regularly or even irregularly, talk about the gang members having automatic weapons. I think that's just, we see it in movies, right? But actually in real life, I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, it's definitely a thing in real life for
sure.
Especially in the really like heavily populated cities, stuff like that. The automatic weapons are definitely, I mean, they're not legal, but they're definitely a thing for sure.
Well, I agree. I do think they're a thing, but we don't really hear about that.
I see a good amount of it, but I don't know if that's just because
I
have like that.
But you've seen it where they've said that that's what they used. That's the kind of weapon they used.
Videos of, I mean, not like news reports. I've seen videos of like people running around with their iPhones and shooting at people and stuff like that. And they'll have like AKs, Uzis. I mean, the very like trendy kind of thing was like if you put a switch on a Glock or something like that, it could shoot like I think 50 rounds within like 3 seconds or whatever it was. And that's a very, very, very common thing in like gangs and stuff like that, because they're wanting to get rid of as many bullets from the gun as quick as possible, not necessarily care about where it hits and whatever. But that I do know for a fact is a very, very common thing.
But there's still, if we take that on its face value, what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
what law would prevent that from happening?
Well, because like that, there is no such thing. Because I mean, whether you make something illegal or not, which it is, people are gonna find a way to do it one way or another. Which
They'll
they
do it
are.
illegally.
Yeah.
Right?
They're,
That's why
they're gonna do it no matter
okay.
what. Yeah.
That's my point. There's no law that we can make to prevent that. So directing laws at law-abiding citizens is not going to reduce what you just said. It's just not. Ah, man. It's just hard when you see this, and then I saw it was reported, and I don't have it in front of me. Some African country that they've killed like 7,000 Christians. I want to say Nigeria, but I don't think it is. Yeah, it's like not a big story, but it's a story that's out there. And I guess Bill Maher was on. I haven't watched his latest episode, and I'll need to do the last couple because he interviews Nancy Mace on there. But he brought it up. Is it the Congo? That. And they went into a church, killing Christians. It's not just happening here. Christians are being targeted all across the globe, and I couldn't believe that Bill Maher, of all people, was the one to bring it up and bring more attention to it and say, why are people not paying attention to this? And I guess over the last 15 years, they've killed like 100,000. That's genocide. Genocide is when you try to just wipe out a group of people based on their race or faith. That's genocide. I couldn't believe it. But I haven't, I didn't get much into it yet, but good for him for bringing it up and saying that we need to pay attention. And he said, he ripped on the news. He ripped on the media. If Trump says it is, but Bill Maher could say it. He can trash on the media and say that if us, the public, if we're not aware of this going on, Bill Maher basically said that our media sources suck. If you don't know about this. And I go to all kinds of media sources and didn't know to the extent that this was going on. So it's not just a U.S. problem right now and it's not just Jewish people that are being targeted. They talk about it. We know about that. But Christians, it's just Christians. Just Christians. We don't need so many of them anyways, right? Too many of those Christians. So, how in all this, as I'm thinking about it, how in all this, we need to understand and be aware of these things. But what we can personally do, we have our regular lives. We have our job. There's a deadline at work. There's a project the boss wants you to get done. There's a project at home that your wife wants you to get done. You have kids that want to spend time with you. Those are all immediate, most important things. And they should be. It's just this kind of stuff, at least for me, helps shape my worldview. And it'll shape yours too, one way or another. It'll shape everyone's. Because either you have the information or you don't have the information. And then the other part is, now do we trust the information we're getting? Who's behind putting out the information? What is their motivation? What is our government? What is some other government doing to try to sway people's opinions? Or other wealthy individuals? We have to question everything now. We trust it's nothing. And as a Christian, when you can't trust anything, the one thing you do want to lean on then is your faith. Because there's nothing else. I don't know how people live and not have something sturdy in their life to be able to lean on. I can lean on God is good all the time, no matter what's happening. Because I believe he has a plan that I don't understand. But you got to lean on something. And then you got to, as men, you got to take care of business. And that starts with taking care of yourself, guys. It starts with taking care of yourself. Women are told that. Women are told, oh, you got to take care of you and, But men, we're not told that. We're worth whatever we can do for other people. So guys, we got to get our shit together. And getting your shit together first means getting your health right. Get your mind right. Get your mindset right. And those two have always gone together for me. That's just been my experience. Keeping my body in good shape helps me keep my mind in good shape. So that I can actually look at these things and get into some of these rabbit holes without just totally losing it. Because we can't have that. We don't have enough men leading in this country anymore. Men have been pushed away and put aside, and we need to take our rightful place. But nobody's gonna want to follow you. Not even your family, if you don't have you together first. So take that time, figure it out, get there. Take that 45 minutes when everybody else is asleep and go get some shit done. Get yourself right. Get yourself strong. Because when I'm strong in the body, I'm strong in the mind. I know I can accomplish stuff. I know that I have the discipline, because that's what it is. And If you don't have the discipline to get your body right, how the fuck are you going to have discipline to do what you need to do at work, to improve your prospects, to make more money? How are you going to do that? Because all of those things take discipline. You got to figure that out. We got to do the things that aren't the fun things. But be examples. And being an example doesn't mean being, a wallflower. Doesn't mean, it means stepping up to your God-given role. Hopefully, I don't know, we take a look at that stuff because that's what we can control, right? I'm just trying to figure out some solutions. And the only thing we can control is ourselves. So if that's the case, if that's it, then that's where it has to begin. Just like all these politicians, oh, Trump this and Trump did this. And how about you take care of you first? Don't worry about what Trump said or didn't say. Worry about what you're saying. That goes for me too. Worry about what you're saying. And then you can be an example. Then others might follow. Then people say, I want what he has. That's what happened to me when I got sober. And I was sitting in that room of men. And I believe it was my last drink was on a Sunday. My first AA meeting was on a Thursday. And I didn't drink from that Sunday to Thursday. And I haven't drank since that Sunday period. But I knew about AA because I'd been in AA once before. And and successfully for a minute until I stopped going. And then I went another time with a friend where I, just so I could get my spouse off my back. But this time I knew. This time I knew I didn't want to drink anymore. And I would do anything to not drink anymore because my life was good and bad. But the bad was really overshadowing the good. And I knew I needed to get a sponsor. And I didn't want to fuck around and wait. So I listened to everybody talk in the room. And then there was one guy who talked, and he talked about his kids, his sons, and how his relationship was with his sons when he was drinking and how that relationship was today. And how he had been able to change that and improve that relationship by focusing on himself. And I was like, I want what that guy has. I want a relationship with my kid like that. And to be honest, I fucked it up, with the divorce, everything. I fucked it up. And to this day, I will work the rest of my life to work towards having that. And I do. And it's gotten better. But I wanted what he had. I'm not a billionaire, man. I'm just a fighter, just a scrapper. Like a lot of you out there. And I just want to I want to be an example as well. I want what Troy has. And I'm not just talking about, money and material things. I'm just talking about life. And having the right people in your life and the right relationships in your life. I haven't done good on that front with women for sure, man. But I tell the truth on myself, man. And it seems to be different this time, Nobody's perfect. We all just want progress, man. That's what it is. Just keep working for progress. Work to get better. And if I can play some kind of role in that, then I'm going to do my best to do that. All right? So contact us, social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, which I can't. I'm banned on Facebook for like a couple weeks. I can't post shit.
What happened there?
Somebody said something to me, and I said something back. I always wonder, do they get banned too for 2 weeks? Do they get restricted too? I don't know.
Probably.
It's just crazy. Maybe. But you can still message me. I'm still okay on Messenger. And other people, Dawn can post stuff like she did last night for the game and then tagged me, and I can add it to my timeline. That's the only way I can get things on my timeline is by adding it if somebody else tags me. Yeah. It's so funny. But X, been doing a lot of stuff on X. Check it out there as well. TikTok, especially if you're interested in how to get help with your testosterone levels and get you on the right path to, being a man. It matters. It really, really matters. Scientifically, it matters. All right? So get tested. Send me your test. You can do that all on TikTok and even ask me, and I'll give you my personal number. So do that, and we appreciate you. We'll be back on Wednesday. See what sorting out all this stuff happens. Just feeling a little somber today, but God bless you all. Let's have a great week. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting.